So, Horvat, who is top of your list as a fantasy flame?
So this is the first and only time I'll say this season, but I got a 2-quarterback league, and I had to pick up Aaron Rodgers, and he's only rostered actually 25% right now, but he's coming off one of his better performances of the season, actually his best performance of the season against a really good Browns defense. He was 21. He completed 21 of his passes, I should say, for 235 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Now he's going against the Cincinnati Bengals, and I love Rodgers in a standalone spot where all eyeballs are going to be on Rodgers. Looks like he's more comfortable every week running this offense. And this is more just a play against the Bengals, who I've been targeting or going against all season long. Really generous to opposing quarterbacks, giving up right now over 250 passing yards per game to opposing quarterbacks. You know, I don't think it's going to be 350 yards or 4 touchdowns or anything like that, but I think Rodgers will be serviceable enough if you're in a pinch as a fantasy streamer against the Bengals coming up on Thursday night. So I'll go with Rodgers.
I don't feel great about this one, but my fantasy flame pick is Bryce Young. I never feel, particularly at ease when selecting him on anything. And I have Bryce Young in a number of super flex formats as well. But even in a single quarterback league, I think he's somebody worth debating his services. Taking on the Jets. Again, single engine Cessnas is essentially what the New York Jets are. Now, you believe the Jets are going to win, and they may actually pull off the W. That's fine. I just want a high-scoring game. And Young is somebody right now less than 20% started in Yahoo leagues. A supreme matchup on paper is the Jets are number 30 in drawback EPA defense. They've allowed the 13th most opposing quarterbacks in terms of fantasy points per game, giving up 7.32 pass yards per attempt, 207.5 pass yards per game, and 2 passing touchdowns per game. Again, he's not going to blow your socks off in yardage. May get you around like 215, 220, maybe boost the bottom line with 15 to 20 rushing yards, but it could be a 2 to 3 passing touchdown kind of game from Bryce Young. He's number 11 in red zone completion percentage. He finally got Tedero McMillan in the end zone not once but twice last week. There's an outside shot that Jalen Coker could return, so drop some lines. 18 plus. He has done in 2 of 5 matchups this season. So I think 3 of 6. I think Bryce Young has a shot to get to at least 18 fantasy points. So give me him as my fantasy flame selection this week in 12-team and deeper leagues. Let's go to fantasy lames. Flip side of the coin. Got to be at least 50% or greater started and using Yahoo leagues as a measuring stick there. So what a supposed kind of top-of-line quarterback do you feel is going to be due for a letdown?
I've been bouncing back and forth because I kind of like some of these matchups for a lot of the top quarterbacks this week. I was looking at your guy, and then I saw you had him, so I didn't want to piggyback there. And then I was going to go with Justin Fields because there's been 3 games where he's had over 25 fantasy points. There's been, 2 games where he hasn't even eclipsed 5 fantasy points. You just never know what you're going to get. And I bet the Jets, so I could see him letting me down. Instead, though, I'm going to go with Bo Nix. Coming off that game where he completed 19 to 30 balls, 174 yards, 1 touchdown. Also, rushed 5 times for 24 yards. And I know he could still use his legs. And I know on paper this looks like a great matchup against the Giants. But I think the Giants' defense is going to improve, especially with what I'm seeing from the offensive side of the ball. I think he's going to throw a couple interceptions, and I think the Giants are live in this game to at least cover against the Broncos.
Wow.
I love fading these games also, the international travel back. So give me I'll fade Bo Nix, man. I think he's going to have a rough showing against the Giants. And right now, I can't believe I'm saying this. The Giants might be the most fun team to watch in football.
With Vanilla Vic and Cam Scattaboo.
Yes.
I mean, that's a dynamite 1-2 punch. Let me ask you the question, because I already gave this prop out earlier in the show. I said Jackson Dart's got a really good shot to score with his legs. It's plus 330 right now in that anytime touchdown market. I wrote about him on my site, thegamingjuice.com, as my fantasy flame quarterback of the week. Give me a stat projection for Jackson Dart. What do you think he does? Guy's been really accumulating yards on the ground in his first 3 starts this NFL season.
I was going to use him here in this segment as well, but I don't know what the passing numbers are going to be, but I do think he's going to use his legs. I think he eclipses over 35 rushing yards, even against a really good Broncos defense. And I do think that he gets in the end zone. I like the anytime touchdown look. And, they're 7-point dogs, so there should be a negative game script. So I do think he's going to drop back quite a bit if they can't get the ground game going. I like Dart a lot this week.
Yeah, he's been playing clean football. That's the biggest key. I think I've fearlessly forecasted like 175 passing yards, 1 passing touchdown, no turnovers, about 45 rushing yards, and a rushing TD. If he gets those thresholds, he's probably going to finish as a QB1 in 12-team formats here in Week 7. All right, let me digress on my fantasy lame, and I'm going to say, it hurts so good. Come on, Jalen, make it hurt. Not so good. I believe he is going to be a fantasy lame against the Minnesota Vikings. Now, he can do damage on the ground, but this is an undesirable matchup through the air. Let me give you the evidence as to why. Minnesota entering the week on the season numero uno in drop-back EPA defense. They've allowed the third fewest fantasy points to opposing signal callers, giving up 6.34 pass errors per attempt, and as a matter of fact, too, just right around 200 pass yards per game. 6 total touchdowns is all they have allowed at the quarterback position this season. Hurts is really struggling right now vertically. He's number 22 in adjusted completion percentage. Of course, he is number 1 in red zone completion percentage, but he's had limited opportunities because usually it's a whole bunch of tush pushes, even from like the 6-yard line. Tush push again and again and again, all the way until he gets across the chalk, as we saw in the last game. He has scored 20 or more fantasy points in 3 of 6 games, but I think he's going to be under that threshold this week. Just really a kind of a ho-hum, subpar game for him based on the tough vertical matchup against Skulls. So give me Jalen Hurts as fantasy lame material here in Week 7. All right, break out the shovels. Let's dig deep with our shocker special of the week. Under 15% started in Yahoo Leagues is the requirement. And Ryan, I'm proud of you, man. You're not an ageist. Explain why.
Yeah, I'm team old guy. Now, I was going to go with Jackson Dart, but I like this matchup a little bit better, and it's Joe Flacco going Thursday. Only 4.5% rostered. Now, the reason I like him in this spot is because he has Jamar Chase and he has T. Higgins. I really like Jamar Chase in this matchup. And in his debut, on 3-4 days of practice time, he completes 29 of 45 balls for 219 yards and 2 touchdowns against the Green Bay defense, who's been pretty solid preventing fantasy points to quarterbacks up until that game. Now he's going against the Steelers, who have given up the 4th most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks the first 5 weeks. And, if you do pick him up, I like the next 4 opponents as well, all in the top 8 and allowing fantasy points to quarterbacks. So let's go team old guy here, man. It's funny, I used both quarterbacks in this game. I do think it's going to be higher scoring. We talked about that. I kind of like the over in Steelers-Bengals on Thursday, and this is why. I think this could be a sneaky shootout.
Battle of geriatrics going toe-to-toe in that one with Aaron Rodgers and Joe Flacco, combined age of roughly 4,000 years. So, yeah, you're definitely team old guy, to say the least. Let's get a little bit younger, all right, and go ahead and cannonball splash in the fountain of youth here. I'm going to go with Spencer Rattler, the slithering snake for the New Orleans Saints. I think is going to strike the Chicago Bears for a decent fantasy output. I'm not saying New Orleans is going to win by any stretch of the imagination. Bear down, Chicago Bears. I think the Bears going to emerge victorious with somewhat relative ease, but fantasy points still count in garbage time, and the matchup is splendid on paper as the Bears are number 23 in drop-back EPA defense have allowed the 4th most fantasy points to opposing signal callers, giving up 7.84 pass yards per attempt, 219.4 pass yards per game, and 13 total touchdowns. You look at Spencer Rattler, number 17 adjusted completion percentage, not so great. Number 24 in red zone completion percentage, underwhelming in that category. He's only scored 18 or more fantasy points one time in 6 starts. That came earlier this season, week 2 against the San Francisco 49ers. But I think he's got to add his second 18-plus fantasy point performance. Something around like 220 to 230 passing yards, a couple of passing touchdowns, probably a pick. But you can erase that pick with his legs. Usually good for anywhere between 20 to 30 rushing yards. That'll get it done in a pinch for you Josh Allen managers out there who need that 1 week stopgap. So Spencer Rattler in Chicago, my shocker special of the week.